Zurek from high school. We've been friends for about 15 years or so, and we'll tell you a little bit more about our background together in a couple of minutes. I want to start out by saying a little bit nervous. Paul and I host a shortwave radio show. It's on WBCQ 7.415 megahertz. If any of you guys are still into shortwave,
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. So, pretty nervous. We're told that you should start this kind of things with a joke. So this hacker walks into a bar with a goat on his shoulder, and do you know the rest of that? Yeah. All right. Celine Dion walks into a bar, and the bartender says, "Hey, why the long face?" Is that all right? Okay.
I think I just see crickets chirping.
Thank you. Well, thanks for attending our session tonight. It's called Magical Gadgets. And there's more to it.
Right,
that's it. Magical Gadgets, profound impact that yesterday's not-so-trivial electronics have on today's digital world.
Right.
And to be honest, this entire weekend probably would have escaped our purview had it not been for Bernie S., who a couple of weeks ago told us that H2K2, this time around, existed. And we feel very privileged to be here. We initially felt maybe we didn't fit under this banner with a discussion of vintage electronics, is what we do on our shortwave radio show and on our website, which, as you can see, is pocketcalculatorshow.com. But if in Bernie's judgment we belong here, we feel good about it.
Yeah, Bernie S. is a listener, and he's been with us since the beginning. He's given us plenty of email and feedback, and we're certainly glad he listens.
So our website is called pocketcalculatorshow.com, and that is a compendium of electronics from the 70s and 80s, what we feel is the golden age of electronics, the best constructed, designed electronics of our lifetimes anyway. Maybe it'll come around again. The shortwave radio show is on WBCQ The Planet. We invite you to check out Al Wiener, who's the operator of the shortwave radio station. It's kind of the premier station. We're not just saying it because we're on it, but so many shortwave stations here in this country are religious and political, and Al's got a superb diversity of programming on that station. So,
and I think Al's actually doing a talk on Sunday morning. He's going to be talking about shortwave radio, and his confidant Tim Tron.
7.415 megahertz. And you find us tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, talking about vintage electronics. We'll actually be doing it, the show live from our single bed room. I'm going to sleep on the floor, though. Anyway, so do you have that magical gadget, the one gadget that we feel is the linchpin of all?
Anybody guess?
You can guess. It's the pocket calculator. The four-function pocket calculator. So profoundly shaped our electronic way of life. It seems in the 70s the mantra was smaller, powerful, and then cheaper. But as we see it today, it's order of those goals seem to have changed. So our show, Pocket Calculator, likes to talk about that. We're not consumed with that fact that this cute, cool stuff that existed when we were kids is no longer manufactured. But the mission of our website and the show has been to celebrate the excitement and kind of bring together memories of these items and the emotions related to it. Kind of hit some hot buttons, you know, when you pull out the Little Professor, or you pull out a Defender game, or the Bally Astrocade. We're going to have hundreds of items, the original Pulsar LED watches. All of these items will be at a kiosk. It's on the second floor, the main level. You guys probably know better than I do, so I won't go any further with that. But we draw people to the website now by the thousands, and maybe by virtue of that, our friend Bernie thought we had a purpose here. We were featured on as a Yahoo pick about a week ago. Actually, it was the 3rd of July, and we had about 500,000 hits that one day. And I think probably in the last 2 months, we were the most sought website among the Yahoo picks.
Yeah, we're definitely finding that we're not alone in this interest. Want to tell them about how we came up with the idea, or
the idea for the show? Well, I'll get to that in a second. A little bit background of how we decided to focus on this one mission on the radio show, because I don't think you walk into a store anymore and get the same feeling that you did back in the 70s. Of course, it was vicarious for most of that, because I'm 31 and so was Paul. And not just gadget freaks. I mean, now you obviously have people lining up for new releases of game systems and that kind of thing. To us, it's quite overhyped. Mac fans may take exception to that. Are there any Apple fans here? Okay. Pocket calculators, digital watches seem to... What's that? Apple. Okay, go back to that. That's fine. Take the wrong water here. I hear the new FBI guys tainted this.
Looks
clear. It's like mine. Well, appreciate the feedback, because this helps us get our act together here, because we pulled in about 6:15. I'm from Maine. I live in the Bar Harbor area of Maine, and that's where my end of the show originates for our shortwave station. Paul's from the Bridgeport area, and he navigated us down here in plenty of time. No, I'm just kidding, man. So it's not just as simple as these electronics we take for granted because they're all around us. We're in this age where every development builds upon the previous one. I think it's more an emotional attachment. I remember in the mid-'70s, my grandparents, my grandfather, a blue-collar worker for Stanley Works in Connecticut, he bought his first electronic calculator, probably 1974 or something like that. At that point, he was retired, and he was just selling at a farmer's market, and he was caught up in that wave to own one of these handheld calculators, and he was in line with engineers. He was in line with a Pratt & Whitney engineer. Paul thinks this is revisionist history, but this is as my grandmother told it to me last month, so I think it's accurate. Anyway, I don't think my grandfather, if he were around today, would be in line for one of those Microsoft Xbox.
Come on. Well, Microsoft has certainly contributed to our evolution technologically, and it provides some really good things for us.
All right. Yes, it's very stable. We all know Microsoft platforms. Oh, jeez! The blue screen death. Okay. Anyway, by the time Paul and I had recounted our memories of getting these gadgets, trying to keep up with our rich neighbors in central Connecticut who had all the first on the block to have all the new video game systems and handheld games and all these items that we hold near and dear, we figured an online tribute is in order, so that's it. We got to work on probably about a year or so ago. I have a personal collection of LCD watches, and I'll talk about what an LCD watch is in case you're not familiar with it. But of course, the LCD technology in laptops and in our elevators here and in fish finders and applications everywhere. You know what that is. But because I'm from the LCD generation, just at the tail end of the LED generation, I collected about 2,000 LCD watches, and we'll have a number of those multifunction gems in our kiosk. I'd like to get it set up tonight, but because we pulled in late and we're in a garage about 3 blocks away, I don't know that we'll have our setup done tonight. But tomorrow, first thing, we'll have all these cool gadgets on display for you to touch if you care. But you're here, so I believe you do. Thank you for that reinforcement. I got a nod over there, so it feels good. That's second floor by the networking room, mezzanine. So we found we weren't alone in our sentiments. Like I said, all the hits to the website. Probably get 30 or 40 email for our shortwave radio show, which again is on WBCQ The Planet, 7.415 megahertz. And if I sound like a disc jockey, it's because I am. My full-time job, I work for a Clear Channel radio in Maine. Come on, let's have the vegetables here. Okay. Clear Channel radio stations. I probably do the task of 3 or 4 employees. I get out I'm on a salary basis. I get out at 8 o'clock at night, and 2 weeks ago I thought I'd have plenty of time when we were invited to this to put some stuff together. And I hope you don't feel shortchanged because we're not as organized as we'd like to be, but feel free to yell out any questions we have. I like to think Paul's a walking encyclopedia of handheld games, and the same for digital watches for me and calculators and that kind of thing. We have some books that we'd like to pass around too. That that feature these items and approximate values, collectability, that sort of thing. They've come into their own. I mean, these things, if you hit eBay or you hit any of the Manhattan flea markets, the parking lot markets, you see people trying to get $20, $30 for these things when, you know, a few years ago they would have been 50 cents or so. So, yeah, feel free to take a look at those, and if you happen to have a question, you own a vintage electronic item, we'll just treat it like we do our show. We'll just come up to the microphone and ask away. If you had a watch that you think you can't have repaired, I may have news for you. I'm probably one of the few people that repaired LCD watches. But before you do, oh yeah, yeah, they're. This guy needs a wireless mic. Want to hook him up? All right. Well, none of this stuff would have been possible without the building block called the integrated circuit. And as we see this overdue appreciation for these items like boom boxes and Walkmans and those pocket TVs, and, we've seen websites devoted to all sorts of stuff. Of course, the Pulsar watches and the pocket calculators. I think it's about time. We don't see any references to what a genius Jack Kilby is. He worked for Texas Instruments. Anybody know who Jack Kilby is? All right. Great. 1958, Jack Kilby co-developed. He deserves most of the credit because it was his design that ended up being put into production just a few years later. Jack Kilby, he was on his day off. It was a summer in 1958, and he walked into Texas Instruments and put together this half of a paperclip-sized chip that contains all the transistors and capacitors and resistors.
Now, does everybody know what an integrated circuit is? Anybody want to
No.
explain? Well, let me tell you, there's a free T-shirt in it for anybody who wants to.
Oh yeah, we've got. It's all about self-promotion for us. We've got T-shirts, WBCQ shortwave T-shirts. Okay, come up to the microphone. Give me your explanation of an integrated circuit. Turn that on. You know, 724. You could probably still catch some of the September 11th discussion if you're not. Mark Anthony's playing at Madison Square Garden too. If you want to try to catch that. Okay, that's fine.
Well, come on up. Just tell us.
Basically putting a lot of parts in a very small form, in a particularly small space to get a lot of function in a small package. Multiple parts on a single substrate generally.
Substrate made of, composition is?
Usually silicon, but I've also there have been other things used to gallium arsenide been used among other things. The original stuff was actually individual parts glued to a plate, basically, the early stuff. Later on, you actually part get made by actually etching and adding pieces to the silicon layer as the is on, meaning you like dope layers and so on, to actually make the actual substrate be the parts. So you have a flat thing with almost nothing on it because it's actually part of it.
Okay, a bonus question. What's a CMOS chip?
Well, complementary metal oxide semiconductor, higher impedance.
And you only get one T-shirt, so you don't have to.
Okay, we know this guy.
There you go.
I'm a techie. I would know this.
He's a techie. All right. Well,
okay. So we've got Jack Kilby.
so Jack Kilby invented the digital age with the components he was talking about, the integrated circuit.
He certainly started it, but I read reports that to this day, Jack Kilby admits that he's computer illiterate, and he had one regret.
Yeah, one regret of the integrated circuit, those electronic greeting cards, which came in vogue about 5 or 6 years ago. Those things you open up and they give you a message or they play a musical greeting or whatever. He wouldn't have invented the IC had he known for that one product. No, it's obviously not true. He had no idea the direction that thing was going to take. The transistor, when that was invented in 1947, I believe, it took about 15 years for its implementation and stuff you see all over your household, obviously transistor radios and other items. This only took about 7 years, the integrated circuit, to be implemented in such a wide form. And he had no idea what would happen. He was recognized with the Nobel Prize for Physics a couple of years ago. He shares that with a couple other guys, and he remarked that if I had known that, I can't remember it verbatim, had I had I printed it out from the website, I would have been able to tell you. But it's something along the lines, it's a $1 trillion industry, or at least it was the end product industry of the integrated circuit items. Amounts to $1 trillion a couple of years back. I'm sure we exceed that now. Had he known, he would have maybe jumped on it a little earlier, put more effort than just going in on his day off during the summer of 1958 when he joined Texas Instruments. I think it's probably time to...
I think somebody had a question there.
Let's see. Yeah.
Wondering what the time was when you developed your processor.
About a year. 1969, it was at the... Okay, he asked the development of the microprocessor integrated chip. Integrated circuits are microprocessors and amplifiers and memory.
Right, all microprocessors we would classify as an IC,
Right.
not necessarily all ICs are microprocessors. We can classify memory and timer chips and that sort of thing as ICs.
Yes, well, I gotta get to his.
Intel 4004, 1960.
Okay, 1969 is, good job, giving it to you, Junior. We got a couple more here, so be happy to. Want to pass around?
Well, anybody know the second microprocessor that was released?
Before we jump in, I want to finish the answer. It's 1969. There's an Intel engineer. His name is Ted Hoff Jr. And he was assigned to a project for Bizicom. It was a company that wanted to market the first compact, not exactly a pocket calculator, but certainly by the standards of that day, it was a pocket calculator. And an IC is it's a dedicated computer, but it's only designed to serve one purpose. So if you stamp out ICs, you better know you're going to have, you know, a million items that are going to be using that to make it worthwhile. This guy took an innovative approach, and let's see, he thought that Bizicom's design was too complicated and cumbersome to be cost-effective, so he came up with an alternative. Instead of making the device act like a calculator, integrated circuit, he thought create the microprocessor with the programming abilities. And that product first hit, so the implementation was late 1970. And this is the kind of stuff we really like to talk about on our show. I bought the Bizicom calculator from a flea market in, was it Grand Falls, New Brunswick?
New Brunswick, Canada, right.
Paul and I travel all over the place to pick up these vintage electronics all over the country. Paul was in Miami not too long back, in Las Vegas, and trying to hit all. It's real tough now to hit tag sales and flea markets and find this stuff at the prices you used to enjoy when you went to these. But there are obviously not everybody's an eBay aholic and is aware of the relative value. Obviously, there's no intrinsic value of this crap. It's just plastic and silicon.
Yeah.
But it's so magical what it does. That's why we call this magical gadget. Yes, sir.
Just to think it's a large and important piece of history that's missing and why the integrated circuit took off so quickly was because of the first reason the large system program and the Apollo program, don't give it credit. The Apollo guidance computer proved to use ICs for the general purpose computer and had it stand up in really tough conditions and really pioneered
I can verify that. We did want to discuss the military applications, but there's so much we still don't know. It's also shrouded in mystery, so rather than accept it at face value, I thought we'd just go at it from the consumer angle. No, that's a very valuable. Thank you for that. That was something that we'd be remiss without hearing. We do appreciate that. 1970s, where we'll pick up with that 4004 chip, and that was the chip used in that Bizicom calculator that we picked up at a flea market. It wasn't actually a flea market; it was a
garage
perpetual tag
house.
sale.
Right.
And this lady who we remember because she was walking around in her house coat. We went to this place 2 or 3 times because they all kinds of Atari and television, all these vintage video game systems buried in the garage. So we saw her at different times of the day, and she was always in her house coat and her sleeping mask. And that's just how I guess they do things up in New Brunswick. Fortunately, I'm a little bit south of there, so I'm not wearing my house coat tonight. This calculator was the Bizicom first that used that 4004 chip. TI, Texas Instruments. So where do they fall with their calculator? Their first is the one you see right there, the Datamath, the TI 2500. That used a chip that they developed and subsequently became the it was the most widely used chip in the 1970s. I think 200 million of them sold at only $2 a piece. They broke the price barrier on that thing. And that calculator was released in early 1972. And we've sold those on eBay for $30 or $40. They've tapered off a bit. If somebody's got the pocket calculator book, it probably lists that at a little bit more. Not asking you to look that up right now. I'm sorry. Keep perusing that.
So what chip did the data calculator
That uses the TMS 1000. That's the chip that sold so widely, and it was used in handheld games. The little professor calculator. You got one of those?
I don't have it with me. No.
But pass that around too. But it was used in microwave ovens. I know I had it written down here. Some other applications for that chip. Well, a few months after Visicom approached Intel for that design for that 4004 chip, they got another request for a chip that could handle a little more. The 4004 is a 4-bit microprocessor and could handle a mere 1,280 nibbles. And another development was in order. And then the race, of course, was on for these microprocessors. Intel came up with the 8008, the 8-bit. Hal Feeney and Ted Hoff and a couple other guys got together. Packed on this 8008 chip was 3,300 transistors, about 2,000 more than was on the 4000, or the 4004 chip, executing a whopping 30,000 operations. And this chip powered the first terminal. I don't know how many of you guys, I always like to put it in these terms. If you've been into a larger department store that had the dedicated terminals, computer terminals with a limited amount of processing capability, that was the chip that was in a lot of those early ones in the mid-service merchandise is a store that comes to mind. Yeah. Do you know? They were in some wangs. I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't have that in my notes here. However, if we had arrived before 6:15, I could have done a little more preparation. Anyway, Texas Instruments, probably the first company to really hit the public interest with the pocket calculator. People gathering around in stores, trying to hold this one item of this one marvel in their hands. You just don't see that anymore. You got new releases of Palm Pilots and video game systems. But who's excited? Who feels that same funky feeling? You know, when you. Yeah, I agree with that. But those are more or less the gadget freaks, right?
Some of the people don't want the real gadget inside. I know several people who are game nuts. They buy the movies, they wait online for them, and they go crazy. And then there aren't a lot of gadgets. So it's not always general junkies.
No, I'm not necessarily technology junkies, but I think if you're a game junkie, you probably need to get a life. No, I'm just kidding.
But same that people are, and they do have that whole sense of what you're talking about.
No, I am the quintessential nerd. I mean, if somebody has 2,000 digital watches, you know, I need to get a life. Unfortunately, I've gotten so caught up in this. I paid $200-300 for some of the watches you're going to see just to have in the collection. Casio-tron. Put a picture of some Casio watches on the display here. Casio-tron in 1976 introduced a watch that always eluded me, and I saw it on eBay, and I paid an astronomical amount for it. So the LCD watch collection, unfortunately, is approaching the price of your traditional mechanical watch collection, which is, it didn't start out that way, and that's why I started collecting them as a kid, 13, 14 years old, 1980, buying the
Well, remember when
cheapo.
when LCD and LED watches were sold initially, the prices were just astronomical. We were expected to pay $250, $300 back in 1974, 1975 for a watch that really didn't do anything except for.
How's that TMS 1000 chip holding up for you there? I didn't get his first name. This guy's probably been around a few sections. You all know him, right? Our friend Bernie, yes.
I specifically remember taking that great calculator model from stepfather on it. When did that come out?
72, and I think I know where you're going with this. A true hacker.
I took this school, and I experienced a crowd of no less than 50 fellow students crowding remarkable technology. It was just unheard of. This thing can do long division in a split second of huge numbers.
Oh, we were coming off of the slab rules. Yeah, obviously did a double take.
I can't think of a consumer electronic product today that would create that much excitement regarding to the same product. I don't know whether we're just desensitized by so much technology coming at us, or whether there's just not as much innovation as there was. But
well, the innovation, we're going to, probably in the conclusion, we'll get to here in a couple of minutes, innovation is lackluster, we feel. It's devoted and channeled in just to a couple of areas we'll talk about in a few minutes. There's a much larger group of companies that were trying to develop competing products at the time. As far as the magical gadget type thing. Sinclair sold the calculator kit. We'll have samples of the, they had a calculator watch kit that didn't even tell the time, it was just a wrist calculator. I'm trying to think, Sinclair had some neat wrist radios and some other items.
Well, yeah, Sinclair was big on kits. they had a lot of computer kits also. Sinclair computers had the Zilog Z80 processor.
Yeah.
And they were sold in kit form too for $150, $200, and I don't remember how well they sold. I don't know. They probably sold a lot better in the UK than here. Oh, you can still get one?
Yeah, new old stock.
Oh, we love that term, new old stock. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
We'll look forward to seeing that.
Take a look at that.
Got in late. So anyone ever hack a calculator? I want to hear your story.
In 1980, I hacked a TI-55.
We have a TI-55 too. Was it the LCD one or the LED?
The LED.
Okay.
In the late 70s, there were a whole bunch of people that did calculator hacking. It was like the most helpful were calculator hackers. And the hack I did was I transformed my TI-55, which I didn't want anymore because I had a really nice Hewlett Packard calculator.
Yeah.
Actually, HP34 and then later HP41. But anyway, it had you could enter like 5 and 1 enter 1 plus, and every time you kept entering the plus, it would keep adding 1 to it. So I wired up two wires to that switch contact for the equal plus buttons, and ran it to a little reed switch to my bicycle spokes, where I had a little magnet in the bicycle spokes for every one revolution of the bike.
That's it.
Was a switcher. And I figured out whatever, I calibrated the thing, so it became a speedometer, an electronic speedometer bicycle, which in 1979 and 80 was amazing. You couldn't buy one, to my knowledge, anyway. So, and it worked. And I had to press the button and get the right constant to do it. But I had an electronic speedometer.
Was that a 20-inch bike or 26-inch?
26.
It's more difficult, I think, with the 26-inch.
It wasn't easy, but once I got the number right, it was great. Until it rained.
Well, that's one thing. I mean, these things are so magical to us, but they're, of course, very susceptible to static, moisture, and so on and so forth.
Well, with LEDs, you probably had to ride it at night to test it, right? Or it does.
That's right.
It worked well in the sun. It's a dim memory of that, but it was.
Well, again, as disc jockeys, I'm a disc jockey full-time, and Paul at least has a little more credible.
Oh, Dominic, that's good.
Okay. A little more credible profession. Paul works for General Electric. Any booze for GE? No, just Clear Channel, I guess. Okay. Well, that's not misguided. Anyway, I wanted to check out that calculator for 1 second. Can you bring that up here? This is the kind of fun we like to have on our radio show. I know, we're not the most cerebral guys that you've seen tonight, but maybe you remember this from about 1977 when Dolly Parton had the hit record 2 Doors Down. Dolly Parton went to the doctor. She wears a size 69 bra. This is non-PC. The doctor said it was too big, so he gave her 54 reducing pills, told her to take it 8 times a day, and it left her boobless, B-O-O-B, upside down. Is that it? Is that hacking?
Yeah, it's hacking.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. There's plenty of books that one of our favorite periodicals, popular popular science, popular electronics too. I have the calculator page with the games with calculators and that kind of stuff. Safe.
One point, if you fill it up with ones, say you enter, and then any digit, and then enter, you'll get a full screen of that digit. Ones,
Right.
That works on most of the auto passes.
Yeah. And who pioneered the constant? I believe it was Casio. They had the at least the easiest to use the constant feature. Yeah, they were in the Rockwell calculators and some of the other ones. But Casio, you'd hit the sign key twice and it put it in constant mode. And something I remember about this. Boy, I guess I've been rambling here. So let's move on to.
We have a
Paul's-
question.
Oh,
Go ahead.
let's-
Just another point, not only were they susceptible to moisture and stuff, a lot of them often didn't do math very well. A lot of the manufacturers at the time, each one implemented their own way of handling, say, floating point numbers. And it wasn't until quite late in the game that Intel pushed through a standard, the IEEE, to actually handle floating point numbers properly. If you have what is calculators, if you try numbers, lots of floating point calculations, lots of floating point numbers, you might find you get like different answers with different calculators.
No, he's absolutely right again, and maybe you could write this for us next year. I saw that too, that organization, the IEEE, yeah, they at least took an active role in standardizing stuff. That was a problem, right, in a microprocessor several years ago, the rounding problem, which only happened, yeah, the Pentium chip, exactly. Well, Paul's going to talk about, we selected a couple of items, I'm not able to get to 4 of them, so let's just probably do 2 of them that we feel epitomize the era that we're so fond of, the 70s and 80s, and
All right, well,
talk
should we-
about on our show.
Should we depart from from handheld
There's
calculators? Intel Electronics.
Yeah, who's got
Paul,
one of them?
Anybody have one of these? That was actually
hours and hours of playing.
It was actually the Rockwell PPS4.
One of the Mattel games had, I'm not sure, maybe it wasn't this one. One of the Mattel games had a I'm not sure. May have just ran into the football one, maybe the baseball one, the other one.
Well, yeah, this particular handheld game was certainly one of the first. If you consider TI's Little Professor a handheld game, that was released in early 1976. Mattel's Football was released a little later that year, and it implemented the second. What I read was the second microprocessor sold. It was Rockwell's PPS4, and it was released in. It was announced the same year as Intel's 4004, but released a year or so later. And it was also a 4-bit microprocessor. And I cracked this one open just to show some of the insides here. You can see the touch-sensitive contacts in the middle. Pretty well thought out game for the year.
Well constructed, because I know this gentleman here said he played that for hours and hours as well. Those contests could really take a beat. I probably played the thing for 5 years without a glitch in the controller. And I like these things to be perfect. I want them to respond when I hit the button. And this thing was pretty, as I recall, mine was pretty reliable.
I don't think I brought.
I think you were.
I don't think I brought that one down with me.
I actually have a football 2 of that, which was basically, it had a green case and a pass button.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I remember the upgrade of that. That gets a little bit more because there weren't quite as many of those made. And if you see those on eBay, this, I don't know, Paul, is it $20 maybe now?
I've seen some of these go for as high as $60 or $70 with the original box.
Yeah.
But you can see right underneath the area here. That's the PPS4, and part of the reason why it did so well with handheld games, it featured 42 contacts, which Rockwell claimed enhanced or improved parallelism, and I guess that was one of the edges it had over the 4004. But right, and you can see the 42 pins, right. We have two LED displays. We have the one on the bottom, which is a typical alphanumeric LED display, and then the one underneath that just displays small red dashes to imitate the guys on the field. On the upper right-hand corner, you have the little speaker for sound, and it's pretty simple design, but Mattel's games sold incredibly well, and certainly led to a boom in handheld games. Prior to this, people were relying on arcade games and home video game consoles. So.
And a cool note, I think, is that game is now available in recreated form in Walmart and Kmart department stores. I think it retails for about $15. They use the same die, I think, to cut the chassis there, but it instead uses a cheaper LCD display. Do you think they put it back in the manufacturer with that original display? No. I wanted to crack that open for you.
Yeah, I should have. I don't think.
Oh, it runs on AA too, not the classic 9-volt battery, the little cat jumping through it. Those are the memories I love. That's what we talk about.
Yeah, I think
those images from the past.
I think the LEDs on the new one aren't they're the traditional round LED lights, LEDs that you see now, not the tiny.
There's different incarnations of the LED display. The first, just your plain, well no, the original ones as used in the Pulsar LED watch, originally called the Hamilton, then it was, when it was released, it was the Pulsar, had these segments made up of a series of dots, and then it went on to the single bars, the 7-segment, your typical 7-segment LEDs. Those obviously drew a lot of power and were costly, so they cut those in half and put little magnifiers over them. I think the Mattel, did they use the magnifiers on that?
That's a good question. Yeah, we should take another look at that. Yeah.
Right. Right. And that's one of the ways, as decline began and they realized the LED technology wasn't the best way to go. Yeah, they sucked down the batteries. You couldn't see it in sunlight.
Couldn't play it outside.
And that's when LCD took over. And there are a couple of different forms of LCDs, and we'll show that at our kiosk. There's the dynamic scattering LCD, which was in a couple of Sharp calculators and in a couple of early LCD watches, which failed. And then I went to the dynamic reflective LCD display, which is virtually in every watch. After that, now I know you had a question.
The previous watch, what does ASR do? I see the 3 letters.
Oh, the functions on the.
Yeah.
I have an instruction manual for that. That's it. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We can. You're answering. I appreciate this interactive thing.
So what does A do again?
Add to memory, remove from memory, and recall is the R. And
now, who makes this watch here?
I'm sorry?
Who makes this watch?
That's the Pulsar. First wrist calculator from 1976. I think it was actually introduced around Christmas of '75. That originally sold for about $600, but there was a 14-karat gold version that sold for $39.50, about twice the price of a Pinto, right? Is that what it was?
It's about the price of a car phone back then too.
Yeah, the first Motorola car phones were about that price too, and they weren't even on 800 megahertz back at that time. There's so many different areas we'd love to jump into and get your feelings about, but we got just about 5 minutes left here. Yep. It's phenomenal, and you'll see it on our kiosk.
Yeah, we've got one.
We're going to have... Oh, there's one down there too? Okay. Well, Paul's... We've got the 20-inch TV, and we'll have probably 4 different game systems. He has the Vectrex system, if you recall that one. A bunch of cartridges for you to try. You'll just hit the different selector switches there and select the one you want to try out. Boy, it's nowhere close to walking into an electronica, a Circuit City or a Best Buy and playing their video game systems. But I like the crudeness of our presentation. That's an array of Pulsar watch products.
The middle one is probably the
HPO1.
Cream of the crop for calculator watches.
The HPO1? Oh, the CalcuPen. No, that's why when you see those on eBay, they start at $100, even if they're not in a box or anything like that. 6-digit display, I think, and that those rocker switches were a little bit touchy. Those 4-position. Is that an 8? Oh, he just took that in Photoshop. That's a 6. I'm telling you.
I doctored that one. That's the uber rare one, the 6-digit display.
I can't get anything right. Comment, yes.
I've seen an unusual 9-segment display on that in that box there. It's an old Panasonic vacuum compressor display.
Is it a gift for us?
Just a
Oh, yes.
Look at that.
Yes.
and it works. There's some notes in the back of it, but it's got an interesting.
Somebody left it on.
No, it is. You just gotta play with it. Play with that switch.
Oh, there it goes.
You play with that. Yeah, VFD display is important to mention. The Nixie tube display, which is in the Casio.
An extra segment to show the tail of the core sticking out. I've never seen that in any other numeric display before.
I've never noticed that. I think we'll devote an hour to that tomorrow night on our show. No, that's the kind of thing we do. We spent about a half an hour on the what the heck was the model that the first talking calculator, the Casio something 1000. It had pre-programmed messages on the one chip. It had 6 messages. Had the
the TA1000.
TA1000, right? It had pre-programmed for the say every digit, and Paul's got an audio sample.
In fact, I got an audio sample.
Speaking of spell, 1978,
Hackable machine.
very hackable. Could you get it to say the F word?
I could have it spelled out.
Yeah. I know, we all did that.
Spelling it wrong, it probably would work. That's why I found other things to do it.
So we got. Has anybody seen Pud speaking of the F word? Was he the pioneer behind fcompany.com? Nobody's seen Pud. There it is.
That's the TA going. Okay. So we'll let this run over the pocket. Anyway, you get the idea.
What is amazing to me, though, that's the 1980 calculator that's capable of, with its circuitry, capable of creating those, that simulated, obviously, Japanese voice. I'm not politically incorrect on that. There's a chip in Radio Shack right now on the shelf. But hurry, you got to get to Radio Shack soon because they're going to take all this stuff off the shelves. You remember the days of Popular Science, you got a project kit, it gives you a parts list. Go to Radio Shack, ask for catalog number 26-052. And no, they're, at least in the Radio Shacks in our area, and I don't know if you guys check them out on any sort of basis, but they're consolidating all of the little parts, the ICs, the timer ICs, and the the voice recorder ICs and all this stuff. Is that?
You can't go to the store, but it wasn't my mail that the store or you. There's a little mail a hassle.
Yeah,
Exactly.
what good is that? You got a late night
Exactly.
project, you got to run to Radio Shack.
You can't run on a Sunday afternoon to get your parts.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. And that is kind of the essence of what we're talking about here. At Radio Shack,
If you need a cell phone, they got you covered.
Radio Shacks are sold out because, hey, they got a whole wall of consumer cell phones and Nextel.
You ask questions, we say, duh. You never know the right answers.
That should be the new campaign for Radio Shack, and I think we'll get sarcastic tomorrow night on our radio show called Pocket Calculator. It's on WBCQ at 7.415 megahertz.
Yeah, and if any of you guys want to come up and listen in, or if you have anything you want to share with the world on shortwave, by all means, come on up.
Yeah, let's
we're in room 1071.
1071.
Come on by.
BYOB. There's we got 3 microphones set up, so if you do have some memories about these vintage electronics that you want to share, there's obviously so much that we need touch on, but we're going to have to conclude here in a couple of minutes. But if you want to say it to all of North America, even parts of Europe on the shortwave radio show, you're
Right. Well, and even if
Welcome to
you're
do
not
that.
so interested in the stuff we talk about, the station WBCQ has a tremendous tremendous program schedule. They play, or they have Off the Hook, which is, I'm sure most of you folks are familiar with that.
And the show with Bernie S. is involved. We'll give that a plug. That's the W.
Live.
From here.
What do you do for a live show?
We're doing the live show
Tomorrow.
tomorrow night, 10 o'clock.
It'd be great if we could do it
Is that your first
down
live
here or
show?
something.
Is it the first?
Will that be your first live show?
No, actually, after we saw you in Philadelphia, we started doing them almost on a weekly basis.
It's always doing it live, yeah.
Yeah, it's worked out a lot better, and that's how we've gotten the emails up to 30 or 40. That's a pretty big deal for shortwave radio shows. At least we're told that one email, because it's an old technology, people aren't necessarily already online. You know, to get about 30 or 40 emails from that type of audience is quite a coup. So we should wrap it up here in saying we appreciate you listening to our golden age of electronics. Maybe a little self-serving. I hope you shared some of the similar interests that we have.
And certainly, certainly stop by our table if you want to share some more stuff. There's so much stuff that we couldn't display tonight, but you want to welcome to come by and chat with us and play with our gadgets.
Yeah. So, how about the prepared statement? The constant race to market a 20% faster chip, another 100 satellite channels, 1,000 extra free cell phone minutes, and so on, allows us little time to appreciate where we are in this exponentially growing electronic age. A greater consequence may be losing sight of where we've come from. We recognize that we wouldn't have the pleasure of talking about the good old days with everybody on the nets if it weren't for Jack Kilby and the exponential growth of the integrated circuit into what it is now. What we think is lacking in today's electronics is soul, and if we had more time, we could talk about the investor relations website of Casio and how much less goes into research and development, and how they had 100 different watch modules back in 1980, and now they've got maybe 12 or 12 new ones introduced. You know, they got a Pathfinder, a digital camera watch, maybe 2 or 3 other significant ones, MP3 player watch. But nothing on the order of what existed back in our golden age. So we'd love to walk into one of those neon-drenched Circuit City or Best Buy stores and come out of there with some electronics that have some soul. Thank you. Appreciate that. We tend to be